So like I mentioned, today's class is about Transaction Desk. It's the software pretty much that we use for almost everything in real estate. It's our document signing software. It's our data service server. It's acts as our e-signing platform. So it really does fundamentally help us in every aspect of our business. The biggest thing that it does as a real estate agent, as a professional, we have licenses, we have obligations according to what the FREC requires from us. And the biggest thing that it does is it keeps us in compliance. It makes sure that we're using the most accurate forms that are out there. It makes sure that all our forms and documents are kind of easily accessible and available there somewhere on the cloud. So it works really well in maintaining all of our license, all of our contracts in organized fashion so that when our customers reach out to us, we have easy access to it. Okay. Now, one of the biggest things I want you guys to know is you should go ahead and go to your app platform. If it's like the App Store from your iCloud, whatever, from your iPhone, then go to that. And the first thing you want to Google, or sorry, not Google, but look for is the Transaction Desk icon and download that app. Download that app to your phone. I actually have that app downloaded to my phone. And I have so many crazy stories where I was like maybe on vacation or doing things and a customer, like one example is I was at the beach one time. I always give this one story, but I was at the beach. I was when I was first a newer agent, not a newer agent, is not the right word. I was probably like 7, 8 years in, but a customer called me and they were like, "Oh yeah, I closed my property a year ago with you, Derek. Thank you so much for your hard work. Appreciate it." And we're just talking, and while he's talking to me, and we're kind of catching up on everything, um, I'm looking through my phone trying to find the app. I found the app, and then I'm pulling up the documentation, and he was asking me for it was the end of it was the new year, and so he was asking me for the closing docs so that when he files his taxes, he can provide his accountant with all the proper information because he had it as an investment property. Anyway, so I'm on the beach there and I'm trying to look through my phone to find this stuff. I found it really quickly. And then I used the app to actually pull the document up and then send it to him and email it to him. So at the end of the conversation, the guy was like, "Oh, well, Derek, it's been great talking with you. But like I mentioned, I really do need that document. So if you can send it to me as soon as you get a chance, I'd really appreciate it. Just because, I want to get my taxes done." And I was like, "Oh yeah, well, just look in your email. It's actually there right now. I emailed it to you right when you asked me for it in the beginning of our conversation." And he's like, "What? You did what? Wow! Oh my God!" And he was like so impressed by it. And he was like, "You've always been the best, and this is just a great example, another testament of how hard you are, how hard you work, and how good of an agent you are." So the thing about it is that I always tell you guys use your software because those software is out there to help you to make you a better agent to make you more professional. And it just makes your job so much easier if you know the software. So take the time to take this class. And then on top of that, maybe do a deeper dive into the software to learn about all the other functionality it has, because it has so much functionality in that software where you can take PDFs and splice them and break them up and put them in accordance the way you want. And so many other things you can do to a document through this software that you'd be surprised. You could even get faxes to the software as well. So there's so much opportunity for you guys to learn about this software and so many things you can do with it that honestly, like, you should take the time to learn it so that when you get in a situation where you need it, you know exactly what to do, how to do it, and you can do it efficiently, right? So first and foremost, it's a little Transaction Desk is set up where it's kind of intuitive, but there's some things about it that may not be as intuitive. So we're going to go through some of the stuff about the menu and how it's structured, so you guys can get a better understanding of what you can do to ensure that you're using the platform correctly and you're not making a bunch of mistakes that will slow the process down. So when you first walk into Transaction Desk, right, you have what's called a dashboard. Now there's two types of dashboards, right? There's one type of dashboard, and then there's the file itself. But here's an example of the dashboard where it kind of gives you a deep dive, not deep dive, sorry, about overview of everything. And so there's two different types of dashboard. There's a basic dashboard, and then there's a transaction dashboard, right? And that gets kind of confusing to a lot of people. So the main dashboard houses everything everything in your Rolodex of sales, all your transactions that happened, maybe some other information that may be occurring, right? But when you dive down deep into the transaction, the individual transaction, this is the individual transaction dashboard, and it houses all the information about that particular transaction. So now the thing to remember when you're looking at the dashboard or you're looking at your transaction desk in general, that the menus on the left are the universal controls. These are controlling I always say it's like going to a library, right? And when you first walk into the library, you can see all the books. You can see every single category. You can see the science fiction books. You can see where they're located. Now, you don't know the books that are in the categories, but you can see all the categories. And you can see all the shelves with the books, right? So when you first walk into the library, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at all the books. So the controls on the left-hand side at any given time takes you back to the overview or the bird's eye view of the library, where you can see all the books, all the categories. However, if you were to ever go to a category and then pull a book from the shelf, that's when you go into the transaction view, right? The transaction dashboard. That's the individual property. It gives you the individual information about that particular property. So the controls on the left controls the bird's eye view, and the controls on the right will control information about that individual property that you drill down into. So when you drill down into a property, you get additional controls on the right-hand side as well. But all the controls on the left, like I said, are the universal controls. So it's the bigger overarching controls of the system, as well as just all the transactions that you have. So if you click on the left side of the dashboard on the left side, it'll pull you to see all your transactions you've ever made. And then if you pull the ones on the right side, it'll drill down deeper into the individual transaction that you're looking to find information about. All right. So that's something you want to know about it. Also, if you just hover over any of the icons on the left, like here is the dashboard. I go back to the main dashboard again. You'll see you can hover over the icons on the left here, and it kind of tells you what they are. These are all the individual transactions that you have, like every transaction you've had. They're all listed here. Here are any signature cards that you have. Here are all the forms that are out there, right, that you have access to. And then any documents that you might have saved, or documents that you need to upload, or documents that you may use in the future, like on future sales. It's all there. Here's a deeper dive into the different tools you may have to change the status. And then here's like a task calendar, letting you know what you need to do next and when you need to do it, right? So you can kind of look at it in different views. If I want to look at a calendar view, I can change the view of it as well, right? So I can kind of see the deadlines for some of the stuff that we have this week. And then here are all the names of the contacts that I have, right? You have your own individual contacts, and then partners. That's like any third-party apps that we are connected to. We're connected to a couple of these. Like we're connected to, we can go through RentSpree to connect to RentSpree. We have LionDesk, so we have a link that counts with LionDesk, as well as other things. The awesome part with the linked accounts is that any information in one system can be transferred or easily or automatically transferred to another system. So if you put a customer's name in LionDesk, you can share that information with with the transaction desk, and then as a result, you can easily just pull up that information at any time. You don't have to go searching for emails and phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. Now, all the other stuff are just simple things that are out there. This one is the one that you guys should be thinking about. This is actually the help symbol, but there's so many pre-recorded webinars that you can go through that'll walk you through every step. So this class itself is an overview class. If you wanted to do a kind of a deep dive into the software, I would just go through these videos. They're pretty easy, self-explanatory videos. They are a little long. I mean, they are like about, some of them are about 50 minutes or so. But honestly, it gives you an opportunity to kind of learn about the software on your own, maybe build a stronger knowledge base of the software, and it'll get you to go even further in your career because you'll be able to kind of do things faster. What you'll find is as you become more experienced as an agent, you'll better know the software, and then you'll be able to do that things that took you 40 minutes to do might take you 15 or might take you 10, depending on your knowledge of the software. So that's why I tell you guys really take the time to learn the software, especially in your downtime. You guys should be making schedules for your week, and in your schedule, you should have set time for training and learning information, and you should be utilizing that time to learn your softwares because honestly, the softwares will make and break you sometimes because sometimes it might be a situation where you need to get a document out now, and because you don't know how to use the software, it takes you 40, 50 minutes to do it. The customer changes their mind, or maybe the realtor has a cutoff time and you miss the cutoff time now. So you're doing a disservice to your sellers, to your buyers, by not knowing your software. This is what makes you a professional. So you want to learn this technology and get it down. So the first thing you guys should do when you're probably already set up with this stuff, but just in case, the first thing you should do is go to settings and set up your preferences. You should update your user information, your email, and your branding. Now, I'll give you an example of what I did. Go to settings, preferences, and then it has all the information here that you can kind of set up. A lot of this stuff is already set up for you, but you may need to put your email address, your company website. You see, though, I have my name here, Derek, at the end of it. So whenever the customer gets an email from me, they have a link to my website they can go to on the office website for us, right? It pulls up some information from the board. Last but not least, you can set up your own signature on here. I wish you can copy and paste the one that we provide you guys, but you kind of can, and just keep that information. If you look at mine, it's pretty much the same setup as what I have on my signature card from One Market. You can kind of put that in there. I just put the company slogan inside there. Let's plan your next move on the very bottom with the company address. So you can kind of set up your own situation as well. Pretty simple to do. The next part is the branding itself. A lot of these icons, these logos for the company, you can find them on the company portal page. So just go to the company portal page, look at marketing, and then look up company logos. A lot of these on here. It gives you the breakdown of how the size is supposed to be, 800 by 125. You want to keep that kind of the same ratio when you upload it. So I uploaded this one, and I have my picture there as well. I didn't put the company logo since the branding already carries the company logo on the cover banner, right? It's up to you how you want to set it up, though. It doesn't really matter to us. Last but not least, you can kind of set up a login. So you can kind of log in like on a cell phone or whatever. A lot of times with transaction desk, we go through it from the board link. That's his link to the board. So we can go through the board and get the link for it. But honestly, I would set up create the password and stuff like that because you need that later on. All right. So set up all your branding, all your information. You want to kind of get that stuff going. The next thing you want to do is also, I don't think I see it here, but one of the other things you want to do, let me go back out to settings, is you want to link your application. So if you downloaded the it's actually only really available through the Apple Store. So you want to go to the Apple Store if you have an iPhone and link the account. So if you go to settings and then you go to the linked applications, you can download it here, right? And then you can kind of go ahead and make sure you push the application notice as well, so that you'll get notified with anything happening. So great way to kind of set it up on your cell phone and have that beach moment I talked to you about, right? Have that beach moment. Yeah, but it makes you appreciate real estate when you can do work from your cell phone. All right, so with that being said, right, you get all that preferences set up. You want to get all your settings set up there on the back end. So you have a professional customer viewing platform, right? But then on top of that, you want to kind of understand the setup. Once again, when you go back into the actual dashboard part, you guys will see where it says agent dashboard. Mine says broker dashboard because I'm the broker, but yours would say agent dashboard. And it's the same kind of setup where you have all your transactions, you have any Authentisign things that you have here. The awesome thing about this system is that everything is so customizable. Like you can customize almost anything. So I can actually, if I have, there's a little lock box here. If I unlock that, I can bring different widgets. These are called widgets down and move this stuff around. So you look at this. See how easy it is to move this stuff around? I just messed my thing up. It's so easy to move this stuff around, right? And you can reorganize it. You can make things bigger and smaller, right? So many different ways to kind of arrange this setup so that when you first log into the transaction desk, you can set this up in so many ways that it's so customizable to what you want to see. As the broker, I might have mine set up a certain way. As an agent, you might have yours set up a certain way. But you move the widgets around the way you want it set up, and then you just press this back to lock it back. So you don't have to kind of worry about it getting messed up because it can't move after that. See, you can't move it, can't mess it up anymore. So you can set it up any way you like to make it look as fresh and clean as you like it to be, right? Now, this is the main dashboard. Like I said, mine says broker, yours will say agent. However, this icon on the top left is the main dashboard. It'll take you back here anytime. So if I go drill down into a property and I'm like, oh, that's not the transaction that I wanted, I can go back to the main dashboard by just clicking that icon on the left, or I can just go into transactions and find the property that I like. If you want to kind of use the search icon, you can use it here, right up here in the search, and type in the name of the property. I tell you guys to use a certain nomenclature to kind of, I want you guys to be able to kind of track down the properties you want pretty quickly. So let's say it's one of the listings, 2301 Island Drive. Let's say it's that property. It'll pull up anything that had that property set up, right? So here's an example of it here. There's two of them because we had two different transactions with that particular property. And you always want to kind of look and see the name, because like I said, the name is important because you can kind of look at it really quickly and figure out which one you want to kind of do. For example, this one just says the owner's name, whereas this one says the buyer, the current buyer on the property. So I know that this one's something to deal with the owner, and then this one is something to deal with the current purchase on the property. All right. So now you can, like I said, you can access individual transactions. Once again, it's like the library. You're in the library and you're looking at all the books in the library, and then you go to an area that you want, and then you find the book that you like, and then you drill down into that book, and you're like, okay, now I'm inside the book. I see the book. I open the book up. Here are all the book's chapters, and here's the chapters of the book right here on the right. You can drill down to each section to learn more about that chapter, right? That's the best way to explain it for me. So on the right-hand side, there's a bunch of menu items. You can open and close the menu items by clicking this little hamburger on the top right here, right? Same thing with this one. You can open and close it and see more information about the ones on the left. Now remember, the ones on the left takes me back to the bird's eye view. It shows me all the properties I have. It shows me all the items, all the contracts that I have pending. Whereas the ones on the right just deals with this particular property, the 4664 Plumello Drive, right? This is one of Otis's sales. So it gives us a quick look into the properties and information about the properties. If we kind of we drill down into it, right? Once again, it's the same kind of functionality where I can arrange how my transaction dashboards look Once you set it up a certain way, it stays that way, which is really cool. You can go ahead and keep it like this, right? For as long as you like, and change it around if you want to. Just click on that little lock icon box and it will switch it around for you. And once again, the menu on the right is kind of like a drill down into different chapters of this contract. For example, if you want the overall dashboard, which is this transaction dashboard, you just click on this transaction dashboard icon, it pulls this up again. Let's say you want to drill down into the details of the contract, which is like the overview of the contract. It walks you through what's going on. You can drill down here. Let's say that you want to look at all the forms that you have that you used. You can see the forms here. Any signings that you did, you can see them here, right? Documents, so on and so forth. Now, the thing about the dashboard is the dashboard has these widgets, like I mentioned, that you can move around, but they coincide with what's over here. Like most of the icons are over here and matched up. If you wanted to kind of bring more information, you can kind of bring it over. Like if I wanted the actual details, I can pull it from the checklist here, from the icon list here, and pull that over here so I can look at that on the screen at any moment. Let's say that I wanted something else that wasn't listed here. I could always pull it from the checklist here, from the widget board, right? And now also with the widgets, the awesome thing about it is if I wanted to drill down into it, I could always do that by just clicking into the links here. I'll go to, and I'll drop down and I'll show you the same thing that this thing will show you, where this is a more drill down, a drill down into the particular category in the transaction, right? So these are all stuff that pertains to the transaction, but this is for all the documents for the transaction. This is for all the signings of the transaction. This is for all the forms of the transaction, so on and so forth, right? All right, so. Now, the thing about it is that you should always update your status on your deals. Monica will help you with most of this stuff, but in the beginning, we don't really know what you guys are doing, right? This helps us understand what you guys are doing, where you're at in the contract. So as you can see on the top right, of the form, there is a status icon here, right? So you can see all the different statuses it can be. You got to select the status and then make sure you press that check mark next to it to save it. This check mark right here, you have to, it'll glow a different color. So if I put it on active, for example, I have to check the check mark to save the change that I made, right? But because I don't want to do that, if I back out of it, I'm just going to say, no, I don't want to save my changes. And you see when I drill back down, it's still back at broker review. So you want to kind of change your status as you go along. Here are the different statuses that you guys should have. Open represents when you're drafting up a contract, right? You're drafting up a contract for a customer. Once your customer actually signs it and you send this over to the other agent and you're waiting for that other agent to sign off on it and get you guys going, that's when you turn it to active, right? Pending means you are actually in contract. The owner signed it, the owner signed it, and the buyer signed the contract. That means you're actually in contract. Broker review is when you have completed the file, meaning that you have closed this deal. You've gotten your commission check, the commission check for the deal has been sent to the broker, to One Market, and you have your customers gotten their keys and they're moving in. That's when you change it to broker review, when the process is completed and all the files that are required for you to submit have been submitted, right? Withdrawn is just that if they didn't accept your offer. If you're in the open stage and you send the offer out to the agent and you change it to active, and then it goes from active to withdrawn, right? Make sure you push that check mark. That's huge because you'll do all that work and then you won't save it, right? If you ever wanted to get to Transaction Desk, there's multiple ways to getting to it. You can go straight directly to Transaction Desk by the website, by going to the website and stuff like that. By going to Transaction Desk's website. You could also go through it through the Board of Realtors the Board of Realtors, if you go over to your page, you can kind of see the transaction desk right there, right? And then you got to look for, like, if you drill down, the way you're supposed to do it is if you're working with a buyer and the buyer needs to buy a property, you pull up that property on the MLS and then you use transaction desk. You click on this little TD button on the very top. And what it will do is it will actually pull that information from that transaction right to the transaction screen, which is awesome. You could also do it from your cell phone. Like if you have a cell phone app, from the app on your cell phone, you can open up transaction desk and then just download the property. Once you click that transaction desk, or if let's say that you don't do it this way, you actually just go into transaction desk. Say you go into transaction desk here. Pull up my transaction desk again, sorry. So let's say you go into transaction desk. You can actually also create a new contract by just pushing the create button. Once you do that, we have it set up for you guys where you guys would go directly into a wizard, right? The wizard pops up right away. You're supposed to put a name of the transaction, use the template, pick the template that makes the most sense for you, and then import any data that you need to import, depending on how the data is being imported. It could be either from the MLS because it's a listing that's active right now. If it's not an active listing, meaning that it's like maybe you're working for sale by owner, or maybe you're working with a listing, like you're getting a new listing, you got to use what's called IMAP. IMAP is a software that pulls the county record information about a particular property, and we can use that to get access about the property. Now, if you use the MLS and you click that little TD button that we mentioned, this little TD button, like you pull up a listing on the MLS, and you click the TD button on here, right? It will take you right into transaction desk, and this wizard will automatically pop up. Now, like I said, if you needed to kind of do it another way, you can just pull up transaction desk and create transaction, and the same widget will pop up. Now, what you want to do is, if you pull it through the MLS, some information will populate for you here. It'll tell you what MLS it's pulling from, the MLS ID number, but you'll still have to fill out this stuff. Now, the first part is the name. The name is important to us, right? This is how Monica can keep track of what sales are working with sellers, what sales are working with buyers, and how the information should be pulled properly, right? So the first thing you want to do is put the address of the property, right? That's the first part of it. The second part is you can use these little hyphens and then talk about who you're representing. If you're representing the buyer, write buyer in here. If you're representing the seller, write seller. Let's say it's a lease. You want to write who you're representing on the lease. Are you representing the landlord or are you representing the tenant? Write it in there. Then you want to write the name of the person you're representing, right? So this particular region, I just gave a generic name, John Oliver, right? Olivier, right? That's right there. So the template can also be selected. The templates that we have several different templates for you guys. So I'll show you a quick example. I'll go in here. Let's say it's 123 Northwest State Street or something. Let me do this. Just go into the MLS on a property that I'm dealing with right now. So here is a property that a customer of mine is looking to purchase. So we click on TD, which is the little icon here. It isn't a TD anymore. It actually has a lone wolf symbol, transact, but just scroll over it, it'll show you. You'll click on it, and then it'll push you into transaction desk, right? So you'll see once it goes to transaction desk, it automatically pulls up the wizard for you. And it populates some information that you need. It populates the import data information, all the information you need. It only puts the address on there. So then I would say who I'm working with. I'm working with the buyer in this situation, right? I got this buyer from the open house I did on Sunday. His name is Roger. He's got a really He's actually from Cambodia, which is really cool. So he has like a cool name, Kotu or something like that. And then after I put the name of the buyer and everything inside there, then I got to go to the template. And with the template, you want to select, if you're going to follow along with us in the class, please make sure you use the training on there. Training is for when we ever work in the class and we're doing projects in the class and we're doing different examples in the class. Always use training. So if I'm working with a buyer and it's a training class, I would check the buyer, working with buyers as his contract, right? However, when you're in the real world and you're working with real buyers and sellers, you would select the one pertaining to the person you're working with. If you're working with buyers, is this a regular purchase as is contract? If you're working with a buyer and you're buying a for sale property, then for sale by owner property, then you select this one. If you're working with a buyer and you're buying vacant land, then you would select this one. Now I set up these templates so that once you select the type of transaction that's going on, it will populate with all the forms you need. So it actually helps you guys to use these templates. It makes it a lot easier of a process. It also will tell you the types of forms that you need to submit to us to get your check, right? So those are all the things that come along with the template, which is really cool. In this situation, like I said, we're working with the buyer. I'm going to set training, working with buyer as his contract, right? Now, like I said, because we went through the MLS, it pulls this information for us, right? And it tells me, okay, you're the selling agent, so you're working with the buyer. Now, if I was the listing agent, it would be here. I can pull it down and select listing agent. If I'm both, I can click both right there, okay? Now it's asking me to use the wizard. It automatically checks a box for me because I want to use the wizard, right? So I go ahead and press create. Takes a couple seconds sometimes to pull the information up. So don't panic if it's like sitting there waiting for you. But it will push me automatically, creates the transaction under my name, and it pushes me right into the wizard, right? And the wizard has actually all the information populated for me that I really need right now, right? So I don't really need much else. I might look at this and say, okay, it's a residential home, right? Status of the transaction will be open because I still got to submit that contract. The next, I'll click on next. After that, after you look through this, make sure all the information's right, you go to next. The next thing it does is it asks you, okay, let me get some understanding of the dates and the timelines. So the offer date, let's say I'm going to put an offer in today. So let's say it's the 15th. Offer expiration, this is when we expect the offer to expire. Let's say I give it a couple days. Right? And then maybe let's say it's something else with the effective date or something like that. That would be when you get in contract. So Monica will actually help you with that. The closing date that you're expecting, let's say you have your buyer saying they want to close by the 28th, right? That, so April 28th, we put the closing date in there. All the rest of the stuff you can leave blank. You don't need to fill it out. Go ahead, go to next. The next category is contacts, right? So these are all the people involved in this transaction. So it automatically pulls the fact that I am the selling agent, right? So it pulls my name, it pulls the brokerage name, and it puts us as selling agent. Then it adds the listing agent, right? Real Estate Authority, LLC. Timothy J.M. Blige is the listing agent. However, it's missing some contacts, right? It's missing a couple contacts, really, actually. It's missing the buyer, our buyer, right? And it's missing the seller. So we want to go ahead and add those contacts. So remember, we are opening. Oops, okay. So we're pulling that information from the property appraiser's website to get the owner's address, because we gotta get that owner's name, right? Owner's address or whatever. So I just pulled the portfolio number so that I can pull up the property. And if you can see here, the property actually has 2 owners on there, right? You always want to double check what's listed with the property appraiser's website, but what's on the deed. So I'll pull up the deed here. You can see the names. It actually has the initials of the buyers on there. So I'll just copy that, go back into transaction desk, and now I'm going to add the seller to the contract. So I'll click over here and click on add, create new transaction contact. And who is this person? This is the seller. Put the seller's name in here. Go ahead and put their name. If you notice from the way it works is that they usually put the last name first. So we want to go ahead and make that correction. Make sure you get the middle initial John on there. Great, perfect. I'm not going to add it to my address book because it's not my customer. So I don't need to have that added to my address book at all. But I just want to make sure it looks right. Now they're all caps, right? So we got to make sure that everything we're doing so far is going to be all caps. So it looks consistent. Add a new person. I'm going to add the other seller. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and make the corrections here. Shauna F. Meyer is the seller. Once again, I don't want her on my list, right? Now, we have the sellers now. We have the listing agents involved in the brokerages. Now we just need the buyer, which is our customer. So I got to add him, right? So let me get his information here. But your customer now, you want to make sure and add him correctly, you know, because it's taking some time. All right, so let's just say for now, for purposes of this, I'm gonna actually just put anybody's name here. John Smith, the buyer's name. Right, now remember we did caps before, so let's just make it look consistent. Let's say his email is, I'm gonna put my email on here. All right, and I would add it to my address book, but because this is just a demonstration, I'm going to delete that, right? Normally I would keep it the add on there. The big thing that you want to do and make sure you do is you want to make sure you have their email address in here, okay? It's crucial that you do that at this point, because if you don't, the system won't save it for you automatically. There's an option later on. They just made an update to the system where it will save, give you an opportunity to save it later on. But if you don't put it here, what'll happen is every time you have to go and do an AuthentiSign or send the documents to him, you'll have to put the email back in the AuthentiSign because it's not set up on the main contact card. So these are the main contact cards for the buyers and for the sellers. So all the information in here should be as accurate as possible. And you should put as much information as possible inside here as well. Like I said, putting the email address is crucial, right? So now that I have all the buyers, all the sellers involved, I'll just click on next. Then it'll push me straight to the forms that are involved in every transaction that's for a regular working with buyer transaction. And you would go through the forms, you'd fill out the forms in accordance with what you need, and then we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and just walk you through this part here. Again, go to the wizards. Once again, you want to use the name properly. If you're working with the seller, you would actually put seller there and select working with sellers listing agreements and the type of seller properties listed, right? And then the cool thing about working with sellers and working with sellers in general is that when you're working with sellers, you might get multiple offers on a property. And then on top of that, you might go into contract, come out of contract, go into contract, come out of the contract. So what you want you guys to do is use the same seller file, right? And just create different offer numbers, right? So offer one, offer two, let's say this offer came in, offer one, and then they fell out of contract. Then you just, you delete the stuff from the software. Then offer two comes in. And what we can do is save all the documentation from offer one in this folder here. The folders are held in the document section, right? So in documents over here, Monica will actually do a lot of this stuff for you, where she would create, add a new folder, and this is offer one, right, folder. And you'd go ahead and save it. And then what you can do is, in order to stay in compliance, whenever you have a deal, when you're in contract on something, you want to keep that data and that information in the system. So instead of deleting it off the system, we just copy it and paste it inside here so that we have all the documentation from the offer, from the pre-approval letter to the contract to the association approval, whatever you have, you put it inside there. And then when you start a new offer, you just add a new folder and say offer two, right? And then maybe what you do is you put the name of the offer, right? All right, so you can kind of put that information in there pretty easily as a listing agent, and you can keep track and keep everything organized so that if anybody comes to you for stuff, you have it all organized. And then when you pull up the property, for example, if you go in a search of the property, you can pull up the property and see all the offers that came in. You'll see all the documentation for it, and it makes it a lot more cleaner. So that's what you do with sellers, right? Working with sellers as well. You'd have to go back when you're working with sellers, though, that contact card that we talked about, that contact card over in the wizard, just go back, and if you need to go back to the wizard, you can just click on wizard anytime and go back, right? I'll pull you back into the main wizard, and you can actually go back and forward through the wizard as you need and adjust whatever you need to adjust. But once you get into contract on a property, right, let's say that deal falls through, you got to go back and delete the information of the buyer from that contract card if you're working with sellers. Now, this only applies when you're working with the seller. If you're working with the buyer, it doesn't matter. But if you're working with the seller, you need to go back into the transaction and delete the original contact information for the buyer that put an offer in that you guys were in contract with. And you want to save everything into the document section under that folder that we created for that original buyer, right? For the offer one buyer. But you want to make sure that in your wizard that you have deleted them from this contact card, because if you don't do that, when you create a new offer and you write up new documents, their information will populate on that new form, right? So that's why we do it. We delete it from here so that the information doesn't populate on any forms you draft up, because the system will look at the contact card, grab the information from the contact card and put it on the forms, right? So make sure you delete all the buyers, all the information on there. That's crucial. You want to walk through the property, like I said, making sure to put all that information in there on the property. Add yourself, add anybody else you need to add from the contact cards, right? When you set it up, make sure you get the right type. So you got to make sure the type is set up for the right person. If it's a listing agent, the buyer, the seller, make sure the type's corrected. And then, like I said, crucial part is the email address. And save things to your address book, only the things that, only the ones that the contacts that you need to keep that you know you're going to use again. All right. Now, like I said, all these forms will automatically populate based on the template you select. You can actually drill right down into the forms and start filling out the forms as you go along. Now, this is not a contract class, so I'm not going to tell you guys how to fill out a contract, but I just want to let you know that the contracts automatically populate with information. So I'll show you really quickly on that when we go to the next section, which is forms. I'll go into the purchase agreement, as is contract purchase agreement. You'll see that it pulls the information that we loaded into the system onto it automatically for us, right? So all we need to do is fill out the rest of it. It actually puts that acceptance date that we put as well as the closing date that we put down there. It puts all that information in there for us. It puts more information if you put more information down, but we didn't use that. We didn't use that the wizard to the fullest extent by filling out all the information that could have been filled out, right? There's a lot more information we could fill out in here, but we didn't do that. So, because whatever you put inside here will populate on the contracts, the corresponding section of the contract. Okay. So just something to remember really quickly. If you do need a form that is not present, now these are just the basic templates. Sometimes every real estate deal is different. So if I go into forms here, it'll load all those forms that we talked about. There's a form that's missing from this section. I can go and click here and then just search it here. So let's say it's the lead-based paint disclosure, right? You can just click on it here and add it, right? So it's pretty simple to do. You just click on add. Like I said, you can search, then add. Pretty simple, lead-based. Let me show you one more time. You want to click on the little circle icon right here and just press add, and it pulls it down. Generally pulls it down to the bottom of the list. So you can just click on it there, fill in the information you need to fill out. It'll populate. It'll pull the information that it needs, and you can kind of go ahead and utilize the form however you need to use it, right? We talked about this, dragging and dropping documents as you need them, setting this up the way you like it. This is the way I love for it to be set up. I like to have my contacts on my dashboard. I like to see also all the AuthentiSign stuff that we're doing, as well as any forms that I need. I have it accessed quickly, and then my document section, and then my checklist. We'll talk about checklists at the end, but checklist is something that's going to be crucial to you guys getting paid. So we want to make sure your checklist is completed and filled out. All right, so once you get into forms, you can always click on the forms that you want to kind of, you select the form that you're going to be filling out. Let's say is the as-is purchase contract. You go ahead, go through the system, you fill it out as much as possible. You just click into the space and just drop whatever you need to drop inside there. One of the things that I always tell you guys is some of these all our forms are preloaded with some information, for example, in additional terms. What'll eventually be put inside here. This is the new contract. From each contract, you can see the contract information on the bottom here where it says what type of contract it is. This is created by the Florida Board of Realtors, as well as the Florida Bar Association. This is the as-is contract. This is number 6 version that was created on October 21st, right? So that's what the system tells you. Some of this information will be preloaded for you, but you always going to go to company clauses, go to office clauses, and then look at some of the clauses we have here. Here's an example of a clause that should always be on your contracts when you're working with the buyer. So you want to go to additional terms, and you can just click on any space in additional terms, go to clauses, and then office clause, and then you can just drop whatever you need. Let's say that if you're working with a buyer, you're going to be getting very familiar with this clause, which is buyer will pay whatever money over appraised value. Once you drop the clause in there, you can edit it any way you want to edit it, right? And make sure that the clause is saying exactly what you want it to say. There's a bunch of clauses in here that you have access to, so you just click on clauses, like I said, office clauses. If you created your own personal clauses, please remember that you are not allowed to act as a lawyer. So I would advise you guys to talk to one of the lawyers that we work with, Fort Lauderdale Law Group, all the lawyers we work with. Try and get some clauses. If you need a clause inside there that you want to put on your contracts, talk to a lawyer, make sure it's an accurate clause that makes sense. Or just reach out to me and I will get a clause for you from speaking to our lawyers to make sure that your property, your clauses that you're using are satisfactory to what you're trying to accomplish, right? So you fill out all the information from the contract, and then you just click on the AuthentiSign to send it to the seller, to the buyer. Now remember, this platform is meant to create documents, save documents, but then send them to customers to get them signed. If you're representing the buyer in any transaction, you're representing one of the parties. You might be representing both parties. So in this situation, this part of the discussion is null and void to you. But If you're just representing the buyer, remember that is the person that you're dealing with. So you send this document to the buyer. You only need the buyer's information. You don't need the seller's information other than their name, because you're not sending any documentation to them. What you're going to do is use this platform to draft up the contract and the lease or whatever form it is, signed by your customer. And then once you get the PDF, once your customer signs it, you'll get a PDF version of it, and you send that PDF to the listing agent, and the listing agent will then send it to their customer and get it signed. So this platform is not meant for you to have the listing information, the buyer's information and the seller's information. It's set up where you can do that if you need to do that, but in most transactions, that's not the way it goes. So if you were both the buyer and the seller agent, then you would need to kind of get both informations and put it in the system, and you can get both parties to sign. But anyway, so here's what you do. You go into transaction desk, and then you go into signers. This is the first one. You pull up the window, press add participants, and you'll go and you'll say which participant you want. Normally you want to kind of add the participants from the transaction, and then you just check the boxes of it. So we're representing only the buyer, right? So I'm going to select the buyer's information. If I was representing both the buyer and the seller, of course, I would check both of them because I'd want the form to go to everybody involved. If the listing agents need to sign it, you would check the listing agents too, or the buyer's agent, the buyer agent needs to sign it. For example, an example of where the buyer agent and the listing agent would sign some form is something like maybe like the lead-based paint addendum form, right? You'll have to have the both agents sign that on the very bottom in addition to the buyer and the seller. All right, so now that I have the person selected that's going to be involved in this transaction, I just press select. Now they're involved. I have them listed. If you click on the person, you can change the way they're set up. So here's a type of signer of role they have in this particular transaction. They are either the remote signer, maybe the remote reviewer, or you're just trying to get them a CC so that they can see the document, right? A remote signer means that they are signing this document. Reviewer means that they just get a chance to look at it. And then the CC means that a reviewer means they have to approve it. They have to look at it and approve it before it can be sent out, completed. And then CC just means that they just get CC'd on it, right? That's all it means. They have no powers, right? So the setup is set up properly. Just go ahead and press save on there. Next thing you want to do is, now once again, you should have filled this form out completely, put the amount of money, all the stuff out on the forms part, so that once you send it to Affinassign, which is the signing part, all that form information is filled out already. Now, the next thing you want to do is maybe go to documents. If you need to add any other documents here, you can add them here. Maybe say it's the homeowner association document. You want to add that to the deal as well. Just click on it and I'll pull it up for you automatically, right? So I'll be on the end. You can arrange the sequence in which they present themselves. The forms present themselves right here. I can pull it up here, make it the first one, or just leave it at the end. I always tell you guys, put the first thing you should put on here is a pre-approval letter. So if I needed to add the pre-approval letter, for example, I'll go into upload files. I'll look up through my documents. So let's say I'm going to go over to one of the properties I have here. Let's say desktop, and then say another property, offer one. There's the all right, so I don't have a pre-approval letter for some reason. Let me just go into another property, for example. So let's say it's a letter that we're going to put in there. Pre-approval. So I add the pre-approval letter in here, right? Say it's another letter that I'm going to put inside here too. Upload. Let's say I'm going to upload the first family letter. So this is like the cover letter. So the way you should do it is put the money in, or put the cover letter first, right? Then put the money and then put the actual forms themselves on the bottom of it, right? Their documentation. Now you can always go in. Now the system automatically if you use the correct forms, it'll preload the signing blocks. These are signing blocks here. This is where the customer will sign. So you see John Smith, it attaches him as the buyer because you set him up under the signing block. You set him up as the buyer, right? When I clicked here, I had him as the buyer. The role he has is a buyer. And then the type of signing is a signing card. So he's his signature card shows it here. He set him up properly. He's going to be setting up perfectly here. And then once it's all good, right, you can do so many things with this. The tools actually gives you so much functionality where you can drag and drop initials, signature cards. If it's not set up properly, you can actually set up, pull this information, just drag and drop it. If you make a change on a contract, you could always do that pretty easily. The functionality is pretty good. Full name, it populates a full name. These are the ones that are in this color here, shows the ones that the customer has to fill in when it gets sent to them. These are the ones they have to check and fill out. The ones that are here are just static information that you can drop anywhere, right? And then last but not least, if you, let's say you need to strike through documents or words or something like that, you can use this to strike through it. And then if you need to kind of maybe correct what's said there, you can say whatever you want to say. Right? Whatever you need to say, you can just put it in the exchange. And of course, you would have the customer come and initial right there next to it, right? And then the seller have to initial whatever change you make as well. Same way, you can do that here. It's pretty cool. You can highlight, if you, let's say that you want to send a PDF and the customer doesn't want to use Authentisign, they just want a PDF of it. You can highlight where the customer signs and let them know that they need to sign there, right? So just click on it and just say, okay, you need to sign right here. You just sign right here, whatever you need to do, right? So many cool things you can do with this. It's not funny. It's pretty cool to kind of be able to have so much setups. Anyway, so with that being said, once you complete the setup, you go ahead and press send. You can customize your communication to your customer, write them a note if you wanted to. You don't need to do that. You can just go ahead and press send and it sends them an email asking them to sign the documents. So now it's completed, right? So it's been fully sent out to them. Right? So we went ahead and went through all this stuff, all the drag and drops. You can drag and drop all the signing blocks and stuff like that there if you need to set up any signing blocks. It automatically populates it, like I said, if you use the right forms, but sometimes you might have, let's say that you get a deal and you're negotiating the deal and the listing agent sends you a contract back signed by the seller with some updates and you need to get your buyer to initial it, then you just upload that document to the system. Go to documents, press add new document, and then you push that document to Authentisign. So what I mean by that, let me show you here. Go to documents. We'll upload a document to Authentisign. We'll go ahead and we say add document, let's say. Add a new document. So the customer emailed, let's say this listing agent emailed me their contract, right? So here's an example. I'll upload the contract to the system. Now, when I click on the contract, it'll pull up the contract edited with the initials and the changes, right? This particular property, we sold it for $675. And we had a bunch of changes, right? So if I need to make another change to it, I can just push this document through Authentisign. Right, and then add the participant from the transaction. Let's say it's John Smith again. This is just an example. And then let's say that I need to put a change in initial. So I would use the strike through, right? Maybe do a strike through right here, and then put the name, put whatever document here that I need to say, whatever it is, right? But then because I made a change to the document, I need the buyer to initial it. So I'd get the buyer to initial it here, and then I'd send it back to the buyer. So you get the PDF already with the doctored information. You see how there's so much doctored information. Then you just put the initials. This is how I doctored the information here, right? We can put the initials and all that stuff to get it going, right? And then the bigger thing that you want to kind of do after all that's done and said, right, is you need to go into transaction desk and look at your checklist. Your checklist requires you guys to do some things. So if I go back to my dashboard, the checklist is on the bottom right here, right? So the checklist needs you to do some things. You'd have to go through and pull up the information that it's asking you. It kind of walks you through everything you need to do. You can actually make a PDF of this so you can kind of see the checklist of everything you need to do as an agent, right? So whenever you get a buyer, working with a buyer, there's an automatic checklist of all the stuff you need to do to get that property to the closing table, right? Now, Monica helps you with all this stuff, so you can always lean on her to help you with it. But the first thing you should do when you meet a buyer is get a buyer questionnaire. Then you also want to get a copy of the deed. So you click here. Once you download the deed, right, you just upload the deed here and put it in the systems for your checklist. So for example, you're working with that particular property. Here's the deed, right? So I'd upload the deed. It comes up here. And what it does is it submits it. So it submits it to us, and then I'd have to approve it. Same thing with the full MLS. Click it here. You look for the full MLS, right? The MLS sheet is here. So now the document's uploaded. So if I need to look at the document, I can just click on the linked item, and it'll pull up the deed for the property, right? So I can see what I uploaded, and I can see the MLS here. The MLS is here. I can see what I uploaded. I can see the property and all the information here for me. So I can kind of, the reason why you want to upload the MLS sheet is because it has crucial information of what your commission was, right? You don't want the agent to go back in and alter that later on. So you want to have that commission handy at any given time, all right? So you want to go through the checklist, making sure you follow up and attach wherever it says attach. Some of these items will say mandatory right here. That means you have to submit it to us. You have to give it to us to kind of get your commission check. So certain things that are mandatory. One of the things that are mandatory that you guys the agents have a tendency to forget is the final walkthrough and the seller disclosure form. We need those documents to protect you guys should anything happen later on. So make sure you get those documents filled out and added. See, you see the LOM there, it says mandatory. Those items are mandatory, right? The HUD is also a very mandatory item, so make sure you get a copy of the HUD and give it to Monica. Monica will also help you get those documents if you need them. And once again, you can upload it from your computer by just clicking on the little upload icon. And you saw me do it on mine. Made it really simple and easy. Last but not least, like I said, again, if you need any kind of support, you can reach out to us, but you could also do it yourself. You know, we have a lot of agents, so we are at 30 agents right now. So the little things that you guys can do yourself, definitely take the initiative to kind of try it out yourself. If you still have a problem, reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you. Of course, Monica would be a great resource. I can help you as well if you need any kind of additional support. We're here to help you guys, but definitely try and take the time to kind of figure it out yourself, or use the softwares that use the opportunities that are available to you to get that done. So once again, it has the live support. It has actually training help videos, pre-recorded videos and webinars you can look at to learn a little bit more about the system. And with that being said, that is the entire class. I don't know if you guys have any additional questions you may have about the software that I can answer for you really quickly. So do you guys have any questions at all?
No question.
No questions?
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Perfect. So once again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can also try and look at that webinar. Those helpful videos can help you get through those issues as well. But other than that, that's all for now. Thank you again for coming to the class, and I hope you guys have a great, productive weekend.
All right, thanks, Eric.